so we are now entering the public comment phase of today, or this evening. We have 46 people signed up. Some people may choose to pass. Given the crowd in the room, what I'm going to do is call 3 names now and ask people, the speaker and then 2 behind, and then I'll call the name of 2, so people can be moving quietly while others are speaking, again, to save time for talk. I would just remind members of the public that there is a 3-minute time limit. I'm sorry, your name? Terry is our timekeeper, and if you're standing here, you can keep an eye. She has a 1-minute sign. I'll just hold that up. She's got a 30-second sign. She's got a time sign. And if you don't stop, she's got a stop sign. So lots of ways to sort of get your attention. Again, the idea here is to give as many people at least a short amount of time to speak. There are a few rules up there on the newsprint for speaking under privilege of the floor, the 3-minute time limit, no inappropriate language or personal attacks. I already mentioned the idea of use your time well in terms of bring up new issues if you can. Things that have not already been said will be most helpful. I apologize in advance for mispronunciation of names. I have no idea how most of you pronounce your names, so hopefully you will recognize your name even if I butcher it. So we'll start with Pat Brule is the first speaker, then Sandy PODULKA and Jim Raponi. So those 3 folks will come up.
My name is Pat Brell, and I've been a Caroline resident for 14 years now. I'm speaking tonight as a private citizen, and I want to make that clear, not as the Caroline Food Pantry representative or the Brooktondale Community Center representative or any of the other little jobs around town I hold, but as a private citizen. Now, I love Caroline. I've really gotten attached to this community in the last 14 years, but I lived in Alaska for 28 years, and I lived through the pipeline boom and the pipeline bust, and I lived through Exxon Valdez and that little boom and bust, and I don't want to see that happen in Caroline. I lived through the pollution, the crime, the violence, the domestic violence, the alcoholism, all the bad things that happened when the oil companies came to Alaska, both the first time during the pipeline boom and the second time. I saw prices go up for rent and utilities and gasoline and food to the point where some people couldn't afford them anymore. And it was just a mess, and I don't want to see that happen here. So, and I want to talk about the resolution that some of the town board members have come up with. The problem with that resolution, and I was an engineer in Alaska, and I was also a paralegal in Alaska, and I can tell you that if you pass a resolution that says that we will not encourage or limit an activity, what you're going to have is a big problem, because the oil companies are going to glom onto that and will not limit. And it's just like your 5-year-old, if you tell him that I'm not going to promote or limit your access to the cookie jar, you're going to have a problem. And if the 5-year-old had access to a lawyer, you'd be buying a lot of cookies. And we don't want to be buying a lot of roads, a lot of extra fire equipment and emergency equipment to deal with the disasters that are going to happen. And my experience with oil companies is disasters always happen. So please, let's not vote this resolution into effect, and let's be very, very careful about what we're doing here.
Thank you.
That's a tough act to follow. My name is Sandy PODULKA, and I own 130 acres in Caroline that I've chosen not to lease. I think this resolution is crazy, and you shouldn't vote for it. That's my recommendation. If gas drilling came here, I think a few large landowners and gas companies would get very rich, all at the expense of everyone else in the community. In Caroline, just 1 out of every 5 adults has a lease. And some of those people regret signing, and they probably won't renew if they get that chance. This industrial scale drilling brings all kinds of problems. For example, even when everything goes right, there's significant air pollution from diesel equipment and traffic. This causes asthma and other respiratory diseases, especially in children. And even when everything appears to go right, a Duke study just found that methane gets into many drinking wells near drilling areas. They don't know why. This causes explosions, and the health effects of drinking methane have never been studied.
Sandy, is that the Duke?
Yeah, so I just said. Yeah, the lawyers in Dryden, Ulysses, and Ithaca think towns can ban. We've gone into that quite a bit. And they're about to put forth banning ordinances. I think that they're doing their job of looking out for the best interests of all the residents, not just the loudest and most visible residents. One thing that should unite everyone, on the other hand, in this room is avoiding higher local taxes. I think that we don't want to pay the cost of gas drilling. So even if you don't want to ban, I think you should vote against this resolution because it stops the town from looking into anything to protect us except laws about roads and stormwater. The stormwater law, as I understand it, but I haven't been able to find it, only gives the town complete control over sites of a half to an acre, smaller than all drilling sites. And it's dishonest to claim that this will prevent water contamination. I'd like to know how a law about surface runoff is going to stop a spill, underground gas migration, or a well blowout from spewing toxic chemicals into our water. If drilling comes here, all Caroline taxpayers will be saddled with the cost of first responders dealing with many more fires, spills, traffic accidents, and explosions. They'll be saddled with the cost of dealing with more crime in our town and with the cost of other government services needed to host heavy industry. Many people will have to pay $500 to $800 to get their water tested. Some will have to pay higher doctor bills to go more often. People whose drinking water is contaminated will have to buy water. If the gas company provides water, they'll have to pay the electricity to heat those water tanks. They won't be able to sell their homes. No one wants a house without water. And because gas workers afford higher rent, some current residents' rent increase and they go homeless. As a town board, you haven't even begun to look into ways to protect our citizens from bearing these costs personally and collectively through our property taxes. I say, shame on everyone in favor of this resolution for closing all the options for protecting us in order to effectively promote drilling, which I think there might be some personal benefit from. I think that is not the job of a town board.
Paul, come on up. Jim?
Yeah. My name is Jim Raponi. I was born here in Brooktondale in 1948. Went to the Warren Schoolhouse that was right here in this location. I've seen salt water come to the area. I've seen sulfur water in this area. What you don't need to see is what they're going to bring here. We, the people, have signed petitions right now, which the board will get, that Dave mentioned, and Dave did a good job explaining everything. I think that by letting these people come here to drill, it's only going to cause more problems with the water and people's health like it has in certain areas of Pennsylvania. We don't need it that much when we're sending probably the same amount as 80-85% of the people in this town voted signed a petition against it. And there's probably 85 to 90, what is it, Bruce? 98% of the gas is being sent overseas now. We're sending 98% of our gas overseas right now. We need it that bad. We got to drill right away. We got to have it right now so we can watch our water go bad. We don't need it right away. We've got a 50-year supply, Bruce? 50-year supply here in New York State of natural gas, and we're giving it away by 98%. And we have a supply of 50 years right now that'll take us to the year 2061. We don't need it that bad. We don't need it that bad. We need to drill right now, right away, and see what happens tomorrow. We need the water. I'm a voter. I'm a veteran. I own property. I love my country, and I love this area. I'm still here. When the song stops, this is where I end. When this music stops. But anyway, I don't think it's good for it, and I think the board needs to listen to the people that signed the petition and do what the people want. We the people. Thank you.
Anna Gibson is next. Anna Gibson, please.
I timed this, but I don't know if my tongue will keep up with my brain.
My name's Ann Boehm. I've lived in Brooktondale for 32 years, and I'm one of the members of ROUSE recently circulating petition for a ban on hydrofracking in our community. I used to attend meetings of Tompkins Landowners Coalition, but I stopped for the same reasons I opposed the Adams resolution before us tonight. Months ago, when I and others tried to post new data about the risks to health and environment inherent in gas drilling to TLC's website, those submissions were summarily rejected on grounds that people did not need to hear about problems unaccompanied by clear solutions. ROUSE organized because enough people in the community believe that so-called current best practice technology does not and cannot offer solutions to a host of scientifically validated problems that have occurred wherever drilling has got a foothold. We wanted everybody to have information that would let them assess risks to human health and environmental sustainability so as to shape a collective response. The right to make use of our private property is not simple in relation to this issue. We can neither maintain nor control the topographical boundaries of gas extractions as our deeds suggest we can. We are all downstream recipients of our neighbors' upstream decisions. We need to take care of each other. The Adams bill is flawed by its capitulation to the least means available to help us protect ourselves, and by its reluctance to insist that we are entitled to have a more robust say in what happens here. In making an end run around a more democratic attempt to craft policy, it opens the door to an industry that is not only heedless of our needs, but intends to fracture our spirit of togetherness. Forcing a vote on the Adams resolution plays right into their hands. Developing a far longer list of more stringent prohibitions available to municipalities or throwing up an outright ban on heavy industry would assure that some hastier, less prudent population fronts the cost of allowing drilling to begin and would give us more time to equip ourselves to enact the language of stewardship modeled by our comprehensive plan, which it is my understanding the town board has a duty to abide by. The real persons to blame for our feelings of opposition tonight are those running the process of gas development and leasing so irresponsibly, and those politicians eager to curry favor by propping up some of the worst players in our crippled economy. If the industry were honorable, it would be working to eliminate everything that makes people hate its presence. And if the government were respectful of a people's right to determine what happens to their shared resources, it would oversee the process so that its pace did not outstrip its value. In fact, members of ROUSE and TLC still need one another, but let us get our ducks in a row. A week or so ago, I heard somebody say this poignantly. Our environment and our communities are not subsets of our economy. It is the other way around, and we need to insist on this truth. The monetary calculus at work in crafting remunerative leases for a few should not override the profounder values of preserving the health and well-being of everybody in this area for generations to come. This is not naive idealism, it is restraint and practicality of the highest order.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bendik Pauli. I'm a resident of Caroline, and I am speaking against the resolution based on the following considerations.
Closer to the mic.
Yeah, speak to the mic.
Okay. The present resolution, in my simple, non-lawyer mind, is a flagrant abuse of the power of individuals attempting to silence the overwhelming number of Caroline residents who have signed a petition against gas extraction by hydraulic fracturing and the industrialization of our community. Second, I understand that if this resolution comes to a vote, that some members have a personal interest due to leases they have signed. And because of conflict of interest, of personal gains, they should be asked to abstain from voting on this resolution. Point 3 is my personal concerns, namely the issues of health associated with hydraulic fracturing. You have all seen a number of casualty reports in the circulating newspapers, and you have been educated casually on many of those issues. When I, however, scanned the public medical library, I found only one detailed study that has scientifically sound and is extensive. This study is by Coburn et al. And is available as a preprint in the International Journal of Human Ecology Risk Assessment. Data of this article are based on drillings in Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico, Texas, Washington, Montana, Pennsylvania, and New York. 944 products, that means solutions that have been used in the fracking industry, have been analyzed, and a total of 635 chemicals have been identified, from which 353 have a CAS number, that means they are known, and their effects has been described. I'm not long. Now, this study says that 75% of these chemicals affect skin and eyes disorders, sensory organs, respiratory, gastrointestinal symptoms, 40 to 50% brain and nervous diseases, 37% endocrine disruptors, 25% cancer. As a person that has worked and spent all his professional life in trying to understand cancer and to gain access and learn about the molecular principles that cause cancer and that cause cancers to spread to different organ sites from their primary site, I would like to address the following thing. Why do we see not many cancers so far in the area of fracking? Well, if you look in the literature how long it takes for a cancer...
Please wrap it up.
Okay, for a cancer to develop, it is for breast cancer more than 15 years, for prostate cancer more than 30 years. Therefore, no data are available. So who is at risk? The children are at risk because cancer drugs are mutagen, and they are mostly affecting fast-growing cellular systems and bodily growth. So children are representing these things. We will not see among the older people any increased incidence of cancer. But beware of seeing cancer in children that are reaching their adolescence and young life.
Thank you. Karen Alvin Conford.
My name's Anna Gibson. I'm an organic farmer here in the town of Caroline. And everybody who's come before me has been very eloquent in their reasons for opposing hydrofracking. I can only agree with all of them. I feel like it's likely to pose a threat to my livelihood in the next 10 or so years. But what I really hope is that the town board will really pay attention and recognize and listen.
We will have this at your time. Just give her a few minutes. Thank you.
What I hope is that the town board will really pay attention and recognize how many people in this town of Caroline are really opposed to hydrofracking. This is a democracy. It's your job to pay attention to what the people are saying to you. And I hope you will have the courage to stand up and listen to all of us, even if it means some extra expense for the town. It's worth it in the long run.
Rosenberg.
My name is Elisa Evett, and I have been a resident of Caroline for 36 years. Over 4 years ago, my husband was approached by a landsman from a gas company offering to lease his property to allow for small-scale conventional vertical drilling into the Trenton Black River shale formation. The landsman never once mentioned the truth that the company planned to use high-volume slick-water horizontal hydraulic fracturing to extract natural gas from the Marcellus shale. Wary, my husband went to informational meetings, scoured the DEC website, and consulted with 2 lawyers. Thinking that his research had been careful and thorough, and finding that neighbors with extensive acreage on either side of us had leased, meaning that we would be compulsorily integrated, and those of you who know something about that know how insidious that is, he signed a subsurface lease. 2 years ago, we suddenly began to hear about hydrofracking in Marcellus shale. We were horrified by what we learned, and it's terribly embarrassing for me to reveal this fact about ourselves. We were sickened by the realization that by signing this lease, my husband had inadvertently opened up the possibility of a contaminated water supply, polluted air, and worthless land values for us, our heirs, and all of our neighbors, and all of the other reasons that you already heard. If we had had any inkling about the possibility of the hazards, he would not have signed that lease. We do not believe that we have a right to do anything we like on our property, regardless of how it might affect our neighbors. We agree with the 1887 Supreme Court ruling that, quote, all property in this country is held under the implied obligation that the owner's use of it shall not be injurious to the community. My belief in this principle is what has led me to become involved in raising other people's awareness of all the injurious impacts of fracking, and further to circulate a petition to give the people of Caroline a chance to voice their opinion about banning fracking. This resolution is clearly designed to preempt any move to ban fracking in Caroline. It blocks the democratic process. It behooves elected officials to find out what their constituents think, especially with regard to important issues like fracking that affect an entire population. A petition is a time-honored tool for citizens to inform their elected officials about what they want for their community. Furthermore, a petition is just as effective in tallying the views of the people as the voting booth is, if not more so, in that it reveals people's opinions on a particular issue.
I disagree.
A petition, especially...
It's not inappropriate.
A petition, especially when it is brought door to door, is a powerful means for finding out the will of almost all the adults in a community, unlike the voting booth, which reflects the positions of a far smaller percentage of the adult population. I'm going on because I was interrupted. This resolution is based on a false supposition that the will of the community cannot be a factor in determining whether Caroline becomes an industrial zone or not. Furthermore, it backs its so-called clarification on presumed givens that are not givens at all. Current environmental law is not a given, as the very word current suggests. As this other resolution regarding Assembly and Senate bills about home rule indicates, new laws pertinent to this issue are being drafted. To assume that the town cannot consider a ban is an insult to the community and a blatant assault on democracy.
I've never done this before. Could you hold on 1 minute? Did you want to speak? I think if a board member wanted to address a comment that's made, what we might do is pause in the list of people speaking and give you a moment.
Yes.
I think it'd be better than interrupting a speaker. Did you?
Excuse me. Does that mean that the audience can then have privilege to respond to that?
No. The board members are the decision makers. I think that if they feel it's... We are the decision makers. Well, the board members are voting on the resolution at some point.
I just want to be clear on the purpose of this session. Is the town board is considering a resolution, and we're seeking public input. And so this is really, although we're getting great comment, it's not a debate. We can have other opportunities for that, but the purpose of this is to provide information for the town board. If the town board feels that it needs clarification, then we, as the voting members of the board, need to be able to know exactly what we're working on and have that opportunity. So please, provide us that opportunity. Thank you.
Did you have a question or?
Lizzie, I wanted to ask how we've had some public correspondence that came into the board, and when you have the number of people that are involved with the Rouse petition drive, some of the folks had complaints about the process. The analogy between someone going into a private voting booth and petitions having the same weight, I guess I was just wondering for some clarification on that.
That's not good.
So it might be worth just noting that concern and continuing on with the public comments. So
Let me provide the clarification.
I think that if we open it up to a conversation, many of the people who signed up. So Kim Knight is coming up after Karen, who's speaking now. Karen, go ahead.
You have a huge resource in this community for information about almost everything, from math to birds. And you could have called on any number of people, and maybe we're remiss in not giving you our list of names of people who are experts in many things that infect the environment. There are over 100 species of birds on Hammond Hill right now, all of them singing, laying eggs, and raising young. And there is a new wetland down on Flatiron Road that now has birds in it it never had before. These are sandpipers and plovers that never existed there until a new wetland was put in place of another that had been destroyed. You have resources here that will be totally destroyed by fracking if the trucks, those megaton trucks, leaking all that bad fluid, which they do leak, go past up and down Flatiron Road and Hammond Hill Road and destroy everything that we hold dear. This is something that the United States of America needs to understand, that you cannot live without this. A desert doesn't work. I've been in one for 2 years in Arizona. And even there are things to preserve and protect. We are wasting our time looking at this thing, which John Quincy Adams would have said was bringing up a gag rule to prevent the rest of us from speaking against this proposition. And this is what it is, to wit. It is a congressional shall make no law respecting an establishment of a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of people to peacefully assemble, such as here, and to petition the government for redress of grievances. The key phrase being a petition to the government for the redress of grievances. That's what this piece of paper that's been passed around from all sorts of people from all backgrounds and all persuasions have signed. 900 people say no to fracking, and I think it behooves you all to sit down and think over it very carefully. You're none of you experts.
Is next. Peg Jones.
Hi, I'm Rita Rosenberg Barber. I live at 108 Landon Road.
You okay?
Got a bad knee, but she's back up at it. Soccer tomorrow.
We live on a 65-acre farm. I thank you for this opportunity to speak to our town board members. I strongly oppose the proposed resolution clarifying the town's role. It is a fact that every industry that comes to our town of Caroline is subject to land use authority. I take comfort in knowing this. Gas drilling would be the exception, and this is totally distressing to me. As the federal government has already sided with the gas companies, the only government that can represent the people, protect the environment and local infrastructure and maintain our pristine landscape is our town board members. I find myself wondering why individuals in our town strongly oppose any control of land use. Yet the same individuals are so willing to give up these rights to multinational companies, companies who don't care about them, companies who don't care about our environment or our community. They can't wait to tell you what you can and can't do with your land. This defies logic. It is the responsibility of every town board member to represent the people in this community. I am horribly disappointed that members of the town board would put our town in jeopardy by voting for this resolution. We have the rare opportunity to see the future right in our neighboring state of Pennsylvania, and the problems are evident. As our town members, I implore you to represent the health, safety, and future generations of this community.
Irene Weiser.